Good afternoon and welcome to the July 27th, 2022 public hearing of the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board. We will begin by taking a roll call of our board members. I am Chairman Crockett, Vice Chair Ayers. Here. Board Member Allen.
Here. Board
Member Sarkisian is absent. Board Member Peterson.
Here.
And Board Member Pitcher.
Here.
Wonderful. Looks like we have a quorum. So as part of our meeting today, we have a consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda will be moved together and approved or not approved, I guess, by the board in one motion. The items that are off of the consent agenda are items 3E and 4A. So if you're here for those items, those will be taken up in turn as the meeting goes along. We've received a number of speaker slips and have comments from people on both of these items. Are there any other blue cards that we've received in the last few minutes? Any other blue cards we need to look at?
Pamela, have we received any additional blue cards? So, Mr. Chairman, you have all the comments.
And if there's anything on the consent agenda that you're here to speak on, you need to quickly let us know and get a blue card up here so that we can take it off consent. Otherwise, as I said, items 3E and 4A are going to be taken up in a few minutes after we get done with the consent agenda. Okay, it looks like we're good. Board Member Allen has volunteered to read our consent agenda today, so Board Member Allen, take it away.
Okay, thank you. The first item is 2A PZ 22133, revised minutes from the June 8th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Study Session and regular meeting. Item 2B PZ 22134, minutes from the July 13th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Study Session and regular meeting. Item 3A, ZON 2101235, District 4, within the 1800 block of South Mesa Drive and within the 1800 block of South Mesa Drive Access Drive, located north of Baseline Road on the east side of Mesa Drive. Site plan review. This will allow for the commercial development, including a coffee shop with a drive-through. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 3B, ZON 22-00045, District 4, within the 100 block of West 2nd Avenue and within the 200 block of South Robeson, located north of Broadway Road on the west side of Center. Site plan review. This request allows for the multiple residence development. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 3C, ZON 2200456, District 6, within the 5000 block of South 71st Street and within the 7100 block of East Ray Road, located east of Power Road on the north side of Ray Road. Site plan review. This request will allow for an industrial building, and the staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 3D, ZON 22-00490, District 6, within the 2600 to 2800 blocks of South Power Road and within the 6800 and 7000 blocks of East Monterey Avenue, located north of Guadalupe Road on the east side of Power Road. A site plan review. This request will allow for an expansion of Monterey Park, including the development of an express library. And the staff recommendations is approval with conditions. Item 3E is removed from the consent agenda. 3F is ZON 21-01162, District 4, within the 100 block of North Robeson, within the 200 block of West 2nd Street, and within the 200 block of West 1st Street, located north of Main Street and east of Country Club Drive. A site plan review. This request allows for the police evidence storage facility, and staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 4A has been removed from the consent agenda. Item 4B is ZON 22-00263, District 2, within the 5600 to 5800 blocks of East Inverness Avenue and within the 5600 to 5800 blocks of South Sunview. located east of Higley Road and north of Baseline Road, rezoned from planned employment park with a planned area development overlay and council use permit, PEP, PAD, CUP, to planned employment park and a planned area development overlay, PEP, PAD, light industrial, and a planned area development overlay, LIPAD, and site plan review. This request will allow for an industrial development, and staff recommendation is to continue this item to the August 24th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Item number 4C. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go ahead and read it, and then we'll have a couple of comments.
ZON 22-00340, District 2, within the 7,000 block of East Main Street, within the 100 block of South 70th Street, located east of Power Road on the south side of Main Street, rezoned from limited commercial LC and single residence 6 RS6 to multiple residence 2 with a planned area development overlay RM2 PAD and site plan review. This request will allow for a multiple residence development. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Okay, and we do have two comments on this item. First is Mary Ellen Wood of 18019 East La Posada Court, zip code 85118 in Mesa. She is in favor of this item and did not wish to speak. And then a comment from John Scott Williams, address 6945 East Main Street, zip 85207. He is also in favor of this item and did not wish to speak.
Okay, the next item we have is 4D ZON 2200350, District 5, within the 10700 block of East Hampton Avenue, and within the 1400 to 1600 block of South Signal Butte Road, located north of the US 60 Superstition Freeway on the west side of Signal Butte Road. The site plan modification. This request will allow for the mixed-use development. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. The next item, 4E, is ZON 22-00436, District 5, within the 10,500 block of East Hampton Avenue and within the 1,300 block of South 105th Place, located west of Signal Butte Road on the north side of Hampton Road, or Hampton Avenue, rezoned from limited commercial with a planned area development overlay, LCPAD, to multiple residence 3 with a planned area development overlay, RM3 PAD, and site plan review. This request will allow for multiple residence development. The staff recommendation is to continue this item to the August 24th, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting. 4F is ZON 22-00481, District 6, within the 8,400 to 8,500 blocks of East Pecos Road and the 7,200 blocks of South Hawes Road, located south of Pecos Road on the east side of Hawes Road, rezoned from agricultural AG to light industrial LI, site plan review and special use permit. This request will allow for the industrial development, and the staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 5A is ZON 21-01156, Estates at Pioneer Crossing, District 1, within the 3,500 to 3,600 blocks of North Val Vista Drive and within the 3,600 to 3,700 blocks of East Thomas Road, located south of Thomas on the east side of Val Vista Drive. This is a preliminary plat, and staff recommendation is to continue it to the 24th, May.
No, this one is approval with conditions, right?
This is approval with conditions.
This one's approval with conditions. Okay, I got them mixed up, sorry. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. So which one is the continuance? Oh, got it. Okay, got it. The next item is 5B, ZON 22-00533, Avalon Crossing, F2, District 6, within the 10,100 to 10,600 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, and within the 6,000 to 6,400 blocks of South 222nd Street, located east of Chrisman Road on the south side of Williamsfield Road and the north side of the East 24 Gateway Freeway alignment. This is a preliminary plat, and staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 5C is Baseline Logistics Baseline Logistics Park District 2 within the 5,600 to 5,800 blocks of East Inverness Avenue and within the 5,600 to 5,800 blocks of East South Sunview, located east of Higley Road and north of Baseline Road. This is a preliminary plat, and the staff recommendation is to continue this to the August 24th, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting. Those are the following items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Board Member Allen, for reading a very long consent agenda today. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as read today.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, by your vote of 5 ayes, 1 absent, you have passed the consent agenda. All right. Michelle, I'll turn the time over to you for board presentations now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Actually, Cassidy Welsh is the staff planner on this next item, ZON 22-00658.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. The case before you today is ZON 22-00658. This is a request for site plan review to allow for the development of a hospital. The site is located north of Elliott Road on the west side of Ellsworth Road. Here you can see an existing photo of the site. It is currently vacant. The general plan designation for this property is employment and mixed-use activity. The intent behind the employment and mixed-use activity district is to provide for a wide range of employment-type land uses in high-quality settings. The zoning on the site is light industrial. Per the Mesa zoning ordinance, hospitals are a permitted use in the light industrial zoning district. The site plan is for one hospital building at 1 story, totaling approximately 73,000 square feet. The site will be accessed from Peterson Avenue to the south and from a future Prairie Avenue to the north. Per the Mesa zoning ordinance, 228 spaces are required. The applicant is providing 229. The elevations were reviewed by the Design Review Board on June 14th. The Design Review Board was mostly in support of the proposed design. At that Design Review Board work session, there were 3 neighbors in attendance who had some comments and questions about the proposed development and use. The applicant did conduct a citizen participation process, which included letters to property owners within 1,000 feet, as well as HOAs in registered neighborhoods, and held a neighborhood meeting in July. Staff has received 4 responses from neighbors who some were in opposition of the proposed development, some just had some additional questions and clarifications on the proposed use. In summary, we find that the proposed development complies with the 2040 Mesa General Plan, as well as meets the criteria for site plan review, and staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Any questions for Cassidy? Okay. Oh, and Board
Sure.
Member Pitcher.
Yeah, I've got a family member that works for this company, so I need to recuse myself.
Okay, so Board Member Pitcher will not be voting on this item. So it doesn't look like there's any other questions for Cassidy. Can we have the applicant step forward and speak to this item?
Good afternoon. It is still afternoon, yes, 4:25, still afternoon. Cassandra Ayers, Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback Road. It's our pleasure to be here with you this afternoon on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to take just a second and bring up our citation. Nope, that's not it. Cassidy, can you help me? Is this the right one? Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. We have quite a few members of our team also here with us this afternoon. I will introduce them for your benefit and in case you have any further questions that I'm unable to answer. We have, as you met, Jennifer Nunez downstairs during the study session. She is our CEO. We also have Rob Laney, who is our CFO, Brittany Murphy, who is our Chief Clinical Officer, Brian Hatfield is our CFO in training, and also a Mesa resident. We also have Mark Mitchell and Scott Sawyer, who are here from our construction team, and also answer any questions that you may have. I'll try not to belabor staff's very capable presentation, but I do want to go through some of the details of the site. As we talked about earlier, we are located at the southwest corner of Prairie and Ellsworth Road. The site is approximately 12 acres, and it is zoned LI. Importantly, tonight, no rezoning is needed for this site. The use is permitted by right in the light industrial district. So we are here in front of you for a site plan review. And as you heard earlier today, we did have design review approval. So you can see in front of you some of the site plan information. Right now we are proposing 100 beds with a future 20-bed expansion. We are proposing 43% lot coverage, and this says 228 parking spaces, but I think we said we were providing 229, but since 228 is required, we've met that requirement. And it is also, as you can see, oriented diagonally on the site to allow for a substantial landscaping barrier along Ellsworth Road. And then the parking fields are distributed throughout the site to break that up. Here you can see the site in a larger context. Approximately 1,000 feet from the residential to the north, 1,600 feet from the Loop 202, and again to the south you have the Elder Hospital. So here's a rendering that shows that substantial landscape barrier, and again that diagonal orientation of the site. A rendering of the site that's dropped into the larger context, looking to the north, looking to the east, looking to the south, and then looking to the west. You can see the vacant land around here, but I think we all have an expectation it won't be vacant for long. So we talked earlier this afternoon about some of the security features on the site. We have listened to the concerns of the neighborhood, so I want to discuss those a little bit more. It is a controlled facility for access both into the building itself and within the various units. We have 24-hour video surveillance for the lobby, the outdoor and the common areas. There are 15-minute patient checks at a minimum. We talked about earlier today that based on the needs of the patient, the checks could be 5 minutes, and it could also be assigned one-on-one to a staff member. We have 14-foot tall activity yard walls and a fully secured and locked facility. So can a patient just walk out the front door? And the answer is no. If a patient who wants to leave against medical advice, they can't do that, just walk out the door. There is a 24-hour hold determination that is made by the staff, and then if the staff determines within that time that the patient should not leave, they can be transferred to an involuntary facility. As I think many of you know, Arizona has a shortage of behavioral health beds and resources, and this facility meets that need. We hope to use this facility to expand the access to quality behavioral health care, providing the need for Mesa as well as the larger community. This shows some of the numbers, some of the data, statistics. Maricopa County should have 2,300 plus beds to meet its behavioral health care needs, and right now it only has 1,492. That's an 893-bed deficit. These 100 beds, and hopefully 20 more after that, will be able to help meet that need. Acadia Healthcare has facilities, 2 facilities in Tucson, 1 in Chandler, hopefully soon 1 here. We did have citizen participation. We were originally going to opt in to the Elliott Road Technology Corridor, which does not even require the P&Z approval or a citizen participation process. But once we heard that there was interest in the site and in the facility, we decided to hold a neighborhood meeting and then file for the site plan review and go through this public hearing process. So we received several emails prior to the DRB hearing concerning the use. And then after that DRB hearing, we spoke to several residents and told them that we would be holding a neighborhood meeting, which we did hold on July 6, 2002, as Cassidy told you about. There were 6 residents who attended. It was held virtually, and the concerns regarding the use and the operation and the security of the site were discussed. Since then, we have not had any further communication from the neighbors. So that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions. Again, we have a cohort of folks who could also answer any questions that you have specific to the site.
Thank you. Board members, any questions on this item? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We do have 2 people that have indicated a desire to speak today. First is Crystal Chavez. Crystal, are you here? While you're walking up, once you get to the podium, I'll have you state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to tell us what you'd like us to know.
Thank you. My name is Crystal Chavez. I live at 8910 East Portobello Avenue. I chose to speak today to let you know that I do not approve of this hospital. I do understand the need for a behavioral health facility, but due to the location and proximity to the HOA community that is just north of it, and there is no, we went to the meeting, we talked about whether people could leave AMA, but basic line is the hospital has no right to keep a patient there if they're deemed they can't be transferred. At some level, a patient will be able to leave AMA, and they cannot make that patient get into a cab to take them to another facility. They will go straight into our neighborhood. It's just the fact of it is. We have people in our community who realize that this is going to be an issue. It is going to decrease our property values, and some have already put their houses up for rent because they do not want to live here anymore. I understand that all of the reasons why this looks good on paper, but please consider the amount of families, dozens of them, families and children that will be displaced because they can no longer walk around in their neighborhood comfortably. And I thank you for your time and your consideration of my words.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, next I have Justin Sullivan, who wishes to speak.
How's it going? Justin Sullivan, 9043 East Plana Avenue. I also oppose the facility. I do understand the need for mental health facilities, and I do see the deficit of 900 beds. My thing is, can we put it somewhere else? Can we put it deeper into the commercial district so it's not right in our backyard? There's several reasons for that. I do know that the landowner Sunbelt, they do have property deeper into the industrial park where the facility could be potentially moved to. Several reasons I would like the facility moved is the 14-foot wall with constant lighting is very obtrusive to our neighborhood. It's almost like looking at a prison. You know, we have big walls, it's lighted, it's a locked facility. It's a very negative vibe that we're gonna feel in our homes and our neighborhoods. There has also been mixed explanations as to what the facility is going to be as far as the potential outpatient facility that is proposed to be a future add-on. There is an IOP facility where people will come and go, And those individuals that are coming and going right past our neighborhood. So if anyone has a crime mindset, the first place they're going to go is to our neighborhood. We have 167 signatures opposing this facility. Our property values will drastically go down. As Crystal said, one of our neighbors has already put her property up for rent because she doesn't want to wait. She just wants to get out. The safety of our children is the first priority. Our children are our future leaders of America, and we have to protect them. And I don't want to say, what are the chances of somebody getting out? I want to avoid all issues or possibilities at all. I have my daughter here with me. I have 3 other children at home. They are my top priority. The safety of them is my top priority. So I would request that the facility be moved so our children can safely play in our neighborhood and we don't have to worry, what if somebody got out? Because I know everyone has seen that there has been escapes from prisons, there has been escapes from locked facilities throughout all of our lifetimes. And lastly, I'll close with this. Upon looking into the reviews on this company, they have some pretty negative reviews. They have, I think, roughly 3 stars, and they have some comments on abusive staffers towards the patients. That is all. Thank you.
Justin, thank you. Let me invite the applicant back up and give you an opportunity to respond to the public comment, and specifically on the lighting issue. Maybe you could speak to that as well.
Hello. With regard to the lighting, I'll let Jennifer and or any of our construction folks speak to the specifics. Obviously, we'd have to comply with any Mesa City ordinances with regard to lighting, and we will. With regard to the safety, I'm going to let Jennifer speak, but safety is their top priority as well, not only for their patients, but for the community. So I'll let her speak to that.
Hi, I can speak first to the lighting. The lighting typically, and we'd have to get into the detail with the architect designer, but typically the lighting in the courtyards is facing into the courtyards, not out into the neighborhood. So I don't know how bright that would be if you were, living in the neighborhood behind the facility. I don't anticipate that'd be bright, but certainly something we would be open to looking at if that was a bother to our neighbors. We really do pride ourselves on being a good neighbor because we see ourselves as there to treat people in the neighborhood and to be a community partner in providing mental health services. I want to speak a little bit about letting patients just walk out the door and not being able to force them into a cab. And so I think there's a little confusion there. It's a voluntary hospital, so any patient that comes to our facility is seeking treatment. And they're saying, I voluntarily want to be here and I want to get help. And so we see sometimes patients will come or people will come and they're voluntary. And a few days in, they might say, I don't want to be here anymore. And the doctor has 24 hours per Arizona statute to do an assessment. A psychiatrist would do an assessment of the patient, and they would make a determination. Is this patient deemed a danger to self or others, or is this person okay to go back to home to their community? And if a person is at all questionable, a danger to themselves or others, we will always err on the side of safety and will initiate the legal hold process. When you initiate the legal hold process, the patient gets transferred to an involuntary hold facility. We are not going to be deemed an involuntary hold facility. In those instances, the patient has no choice but to be transferred. Current protocol, and I don't know if that's changing, but current protocol is the police department come and take the patient and transport them to their next level of facility. So it is a secure transport at that point. It's not a cab. The cab reference was to, at discharge, we're committing that to the community that we will make sure patients have a ride home. So if you don't live in East Mesa, it's a growing area. Not a lot of people may. We're going to commit that we're going to help get that patient back home to where their home is, to avoid that thought of patients. People could be walking around the community. To address the outpatient, we do have plans to provide outpatient services. I think that we need it. I think that when you're providing an inpatient level of care, I think you have to have a full continuum. I think you need an opportunity for people to step down or prevent a hospitalization to get the care and treatment that they need. And I think people with mental health issues from my career and as a social worker, they're not going to be here to advocate for this facility. And so I see that really is my job here. So.
Thank you. Board members, any questions from the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If I may clarify something.
You know, well, we've already,
We found out more information just now.
I want to clarify one thing, if I may.
why don't you step to the podium if you do, and we'll give you one more minute to quickly clarify.
15 seconds. I just wanted to clarify that in my speech here, I wasn't speaking specifically to mental health. Mental health is usually co-occurring with drugs. So my worries are for the co-occurring mental health and drug-addicted patients, because drugs have a way of making people do crazy things. I just wanted to clarify that so everyone knew. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll close the public comment now. Board members, discussion on this item? Board Member Allen?
If I could, it's what we're here today is to do. If I want to clarify, we're here today for a site plan review. It's not for the use of the facility or what type of a building it's going to be. All we can do is look at it on those terms, and I appreciate the neighbors coming out, and I think that hopefully they addressed your concerns. I think the 14-foot wall is the only thing I didn't hear anything about. I think we talked about that, but that's the only comment that the neighborhood made that you guys didn't address. But so unfortunately, that's what we're here for. We can't determine whether the use can go there or not because it's allowed by right. So all we can look at is the site plan and whether we're going to approve that or not. So.
Thank you, Board Member Allen. I'll entertain a motion at this point if there is one.
Move to approve case ZON 22-00658, District 6, within the 3200 to 3400 blocks of South Ellsworth Road and within the 9000 to 9200 blocks of East Peterson Avenue, located north of Elliott Road on the west side of Ellsworth Road. Site plan review. Staff recommendation as approval with conditions.
Okay. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, well, with your vote of 4 ayes, no nays, with Board Member Sarkissian absent and Board Member Pitcher abstaining, this item has passed. Thank you. Okay, are we ready for the next staff presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the next item is KZON 21-00129, and Cassidy Welsh is the planner.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. The case before you this afternoon is ZON 21-00129. This is a request to rezone a property from RS43 and RS43 with a historic landmark overlay to RM43 with RM4 PAD site plan review and special use permit. This request will allow for a multiple residence development with an accessory commercial. The site is located south of McDowell Road and east of Gilbert Road. It is on the Chrisman Farm Homestead site. Here you can see an existing photo of the site. It is currently vacant. The general plan designation for the property is neighborhood suburban. The intent behind the neighborhood suburban character area is for predominantly single residence subdivisions. However, multiple residents may be approved at major arterials and intersections. The current zoning on the site is single residence 43. There is a historic landmark overlay for the Chrisman Farm Homestead. A little bit more about that Chrisman Farm Homestead. That was established by Charles Chrisman Sr. from the Second Mesa Pioneer Company, and it was used as the Chrisman family homestead. In 2001, that site received a historic landmark overlay. However, in 2007, the structures were removed after a fire, and in June of 2021, the Historic Preservation Board voted to recommend removal of that historic landmark overlay due to the demolition of those historic structures. The zoning on the site is now proposed for multiple residence 4. The intent behind the RM4 zoning is to allow for a variety of housing, and multiple residence is a permitted use, and limited service restaurants require approval of a special use permit. So per section 1152 for limited service restaurants, they are permitted in the RM4 zoning district with approval of a special use permit. There are some criteria that have to be met in order to receive approval of that SUP. Those include the site being located at an intersection of an arterial and collector, a maximum gross floor area of approximately 1,500 square feet, and there can be no drive-through windows or drive-through lanes. The proposed development complies with all of those criteria. As a part of the rezone request, the applicant is requesting a planned area development overlay for deviations to development standards. Those deviations include modifications to the required fence height in the front yard, modifications to the parking ratio and covered parking requirements, reduced landscape setbacks and foundation-based requirements, as well as a modification to landscape islands. In exchange for the proposed deviations, the applicant has provided pedestrian connections to the existing canal trail to the south and southeast, a retail component, high-quality amenities, and superior elevations. The site plan is for one multiple residence building with 222 units and a 1,499 square foot commercial suite. The site will be accessed off of an entry off of McDowell Road. So a little bit about what's changed since October 27th. They modified, so in October 27th, that request for an RM5 PAD was heard by the Planning and Zoning Board. The board recommended denial and a vote of 2 to 5. There were 30 comments received in opposition and several in support. The concerns that were outlined were due to the traffic and roundabout, compatibility, density, and height. Subsequently, the applicant made some changes to the proposed request. They're now requesting a rezone to RM4 PAD. They've also eliminated all of the 3-bedroom units in exchange for 2-bedroom units, which will subsequently reduce the density and number of residents in the proposed development. They've also worked extensively with ADOT and transportation to find alternative solutions to that roundabout. It was determined by both ADOT and the transportation department, that the roundabout is the safest solution, and they have proposed a modification to that roundabout curb to allow for horse trailers to override the curb or jump on the curb so that they do not tip. The application was heard by the Design Review Board in October of 2021. There were 4 neighbors in attendance who had concerns over the height, the design, and landscaping. So the citizen participation that was conducted prior to the October 27th hearing included notification to property owners within 1,000 feet, as well as HOAs and registered neighborhoods. They held 3 neighborhood meetings and some additional secondary meetings and calls with specific adjacent property owners. Staff received at that time a number of emails and calls, as well as a survey and petition, both in support and opposition. And the concerns that were brought up were due to the height of the proposed development, density, traffic, and compatibility. We received several letters of support from adjacent property owners, specifically the owners to the south, who worked with the applicant to develop a good neighbor policy, which is included as a part of the conditions of approval for this proposed development. Those standards included a requirement for opaque balconies, limitations on the number of units and height, guarantee that the proposed elevations will be of a high quality, and then as well as some guarantees for landscaping and lighting. After the 2021 review of the case, the applicant reached out to several key neighbors who opposed the project, to have further discussions. The city also hired a facilitator to reach out to the developer and several of those surrounding neighbors and discuss those concerns. The applicants also met with members of the Lehigh Community Board. They conducted the required citizen participation notification to property owners within 1,000 feet, as well as HOAs and registered neighborhoods. At the time that this report was written, staff received 3 responses in support and 1 is in opposition. We have subsequently received 2 additional emails in support and 1 in opposition for the proposed development. In summary, we find that the proposed development complies with the 2040 Mesa General Plan, meets the criteria for a special use permit, as well as the criteria for a planned area development overlay and site plan review, and staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions for Cassidy on this item? Board Member Allen.
I do, Cassidy, just for clarification purposes, from the last time we saw this until today, it's been reduced 1 story, correct? From 3-story to 2-story, or 4-story to 3-story?
Chair, Board Member Allen, no, that was a reduction that was conducted as a part of the first review in 2021.
Okay. So it's 3-story is the max?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we've done some modifications to the roundabout where it's like a rolled curb now so that a car can go up on the curb if need be. So that was another modification. What was the other one? There was a reduction because it was RM5 and then to change to RM4. So what, in the number of units, what's the reduction in the number of units?
Chair, Board Member Allen, there is no reduction in the number of units, but upon a further evaluation, the proposed density meets more the requirements of an RM4 zoning versus an RM5. And then they also eliminated the 3-bedroom units in exchange for 2-bedroom units.
Okay, so how many units total?
222.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Cassidy on this one? Okay.
Thank you.
Let's have the applicant come up and make a presentation.
Members of the Commission, my name is Adam Baugh, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. You've seen this before, but I think for the benefit of Jeff Pitcher, Commissioner Pitcher, who hasn't seen it before, I'd love to just give you an abbreviated version, but still enough to give you some context for why we're doing what we're doing. A couple things I'm going to point out. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the unique nature of this property, and secondly, the why behind some of the changes we made, and maybe the history that got us to that point. When I look at this property right here, there's something that stands out to me. Rarely do you see a property of this shape and configuration. But if that was the only problem I had, you probably would have had development occur here much sooner. Looking at a property on an aerial view is totally different than walking the property with your feet. And once you start to walk the property, you see how drastic the topography changes. From the Mesa Bluff to the south, it's 50 feet taller. From McDowell Road, about 20 to 30 feet, Gilbert Road, about 20, 30 feet, and from the ADOT freeway, about 30 feet. So we're like a bowl, a basin. Those kind of conditions make it really hard to develop. Then you have 2 canals that transect the property and an old road that was relocated. When you consider the totality of those situations, you have to get creative to develop a property. And over years, there's been different assemblages to make this work. But finally, we're bringing forth a proposal that's willing to tackle those tough challenges. And as a result, sometimes you need a little bit of ingenuity and flexibility to pull these Herculean efforts off. Here's some views, just to give you an idea of what the depth perception is of this property from McDowell Road, for example. And you can kind of see the hill, at the bluff at the top left corner of that site. I'll pass through a couple of these things quickly, but it's worth noting it is consistent with the general plan. It is not in the Lehigh sub-area plan. And we're proposing 39-foot tall building, 222 units. But that is not where we started. When we began this proposal previously, we started with 320 units. And then through the course of the neighborhood outreach process, came down to 300, and then down to 260. And just before Planning Commission last fall, trimmed it down to 222. And that change significantly was the result of a significant reduction in building height from 4 stories down to 3 stories, from 50 feet down to 39 feet. But that in itself wasn't the only change. You see, we had to, I think, understand the concerns from the folks to the south who were immediately adjacent to this project. And through that many meetings in evening living rooms and follow-up discussions, probably about 4 or 5 different meetings with them, coming up with a list of stipulations that staff has then incorporated into this case. And that was reflected in a neighborhood agreement that was presented. I think it might be in the packet still. And that neighborhood agreement was signed by those folks who lived on that perimeter edge. We committed to them to make these changes, and they committed to withdraw their opposition. But what that did is it significantly reduced the heights, the density, made sure that our operations were in a certain manner, and we did something I haven't seen done before, and I don't know if it's been done since, but creating a good neighbor policy, which then became a mechanism for the city to enforce. Things like how are the back patios used? They want to make sure that laundry wasn't strung over the rear balconies, making sure that they were opaque to prevent view into the clutter that might be seen on the back of those porches. So those things were a lot of the significant effort that was created for us to get to this point today. You can see some of the views, renderings that we were hoping to create from this canalscape. This is the south side of us that buffers the neighbors to the south to our development. By lowering that height, we kind of become now tucked in. You can see this is the view today from the canal, and this is the view, hopefully, if this were to be approved going forward. The difference is subtle. We certainly recognize, though, that this has created a lot of consternation. We've been very diligent about addressing some of those concerns. Things related to traffic, density, privacy, even some questions regarding crime and transient population. The thing that stood out most to us last time, particularly, was the roundabout. And so what we've done is been intentional about how we've addressed some of these things. First of all, building height's been reduced. So the main concern was height before, and I don't think I've been able to solve that, but I can tell you we've made tremendous improvements to reduce that height. So whereas we are at 4 stories down to 3, density in that cut going from 320 today down to 222 has been tremendous. But the other key consideration here is density doesn't mean anything unless it has an associated impact with it. But given that we don't have access to Gilbert Road, you can't say that our project will create tremendous amount of traffic on Gilbert Road. And because we're so close to the freeway, we suspect that the majority of our guests will be traveling in and out of the freeway to downtown or Tempe or Scottsdale, where likely the workforce is. And so there isn't really that much of a penetration deeper into Mesa on your peak times, which is in the morning, and your peak time in the afternoon. It doesn't mean that people won't drive into Mesa for the shopping, for maybe their kids going to school or park. But those are occurring at regular hours, not the peak time intensity hours, where that traffic isn't felt as an impact. It's also worth noting these buildings are about 270 feet of separation, so any question regarding privacy is addressed. And clearly on the north side of us is a freeway, so there's a significant distance between us and anybody to the north or the east or the west. What's changed? We've continued to do neighborhood outreach. It doesn't mean we've been able to solve the problems, but it does mean we've been able to understand concerns better and then figure out how we can address some of those concerns. And so through that effort, we've changed the zoning from RM5 down to RM4. And you may ask, well, why? There was this lingering concern that we kept hearing that what if somebody came back and changed the site plan and just bumped up their density back to what the RM5 could allow? And so to immediately remove that concern, we changed it down to RM4. So that way what we're showing you is what we can build. I heard some concerns that somehow a 3-bedroom unit could allow 2 families to live in it, and that 2 families living in a 3-bedroom unit didn't fit the character of the folks that live in the area. So we made sure that we removed 3-bedroom units. We only had 9, but now we have no more 3-bedroom units. We updated our traffic study to reflect the 222 units. And there's some interesting information I'll share on the next slide about the traffic. But redesigning the roundabout was something, frankly, I did not understand the first time, and I think that was my mistake. There's a lot of people who have equestrian lifestyles in this area. To me, a roundabout is something I just drive in my truck or my little Honda Civic. But navigating a trailer or a semi is a totally different experience. And hearing how these vertical curves are hard to maneuver at different times, and you don't realize the drama it could create until you get to a destination. We we then went forth and met with the city of Mesa. Could we avoid a roundabout and just have a direct access in? They said it wasn't possible. So we went back to ADOT and City of Mesa again and revisited, is there a different way to design the roundabout? And that's when they point us to Wickenburg as an example. And so I'll be able to share some of those things. The last thing that's changed is some significant coordination with SRP. This is an economic benefit opportunity, but it also has to provide a benefit to the community. And coordinating with SRP on some of these trailhead improvements provides that benefit. I will point out here on the traffic study, this project along Gilbert Road is only expected to create about 75 daily trips. It's because we have no direct access to Gilbert Road. And so you can't say that this is going to create a tremendous impact on Gilbert Road. And the roadways that surround us are designed to carry 40 to 50,000 cars a day. But presently, and even when you add in the traffic created by ours, it's still only operating at about 37 to 46% capacity. So there's plenty of room in this development to be served by the adjacent streets. When you look at the roundabouts, these are the curbs I think cause some issues. And we recognize that that was a big issue when we read the comments from last time and we heard the comments that were shared at the hearing. We recognize that we can make a better option here. So working with ADOT, they talked about an apron first of all. That apron is a little bit wider, but it's used to accommodate larger trucks and horse trailers. Secondly, in addition to that apron is a mountable curb, which kind of looks like this. And this has worked well in rural areas. Wickenburg is an example. If you've likely gone that direction, you've experienced it yourself. We think this goes a long way to addressing that immediate concern. At the end of the day, we've also worked closely with ADOT. You can see here the roundabout that's planned and Old Lehigh Road, which is over there, I guess on the right side of that page. But with the roundabout coming in and the trailhead connection and the improvements that we're looking to cooperate and work together with SRP on, we are making we are deeding land to the city that then can be utilized by SRP to make some of these improvements. Here's some conceptual renderings from an aerial view, and that might be changed by their design committee, but this is kind of the imagery that we're hoping to accomplish. I don't unfortunately get to choose how they design it, but at a minimum, I can provide the opportunity for it to exist by donating this land to them so that way they can complete the trailhead improvements and provide a greater community benefit which allows joggers, runners, cyclists, and horse equestrian uses. The other thing we've heard is to make sure that the planting types along the canal are horse friendly. Apparently, again, not as a horse person, but as I understand it, there's certain plants that are toxic to them. And so working with our landscape architect and helping that influence the landscape design along that to make sure we remove some of those things. So it still becomes equestrian friendly, but beautified at the same time. At the end of the day, there's tremendous benefits to this development. As a bowl property, it will struggle to find new users. The fact that you don't have an access point to Gilbert Road is another strict limitation on the site that's likely handcuffed it over the years from creating any other type of meaningful development like a commercial or office use. But if you could design a site that actually was lower than the height of the hill to the south, if you could design a site that optimized the freeway proximity next to it, and if you could design a site that took into consideration the feedback you heard before, then you can create a community that works. It doesn't mean, though, that people just still aren't opposed to multifamily. But I think many of those concerns that I've heard about multifamily are heard repeatedly, but rarely are born to be truthful. And at the end of the day, when you're designing something like this, and the rents that are required based on the high premium that you're paying for the land, the quality of tenant here is hyper increased versus any other circumstance that you might associate with apartments. At the end of the day, we believe it's consistent with the general plan. We think that's why staff supports it. We think we've gone a long way to try and make changes, but I know that I haven't been able to address every concern, but I can say at a minimum, we've worked hard to be responsive to that. And so for those reasons, we hope that you'll be able to support the case. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions for Mr. Baugh on this? I'm not seeing anything right now. Maybe after some public comment, we'll have you back up. Okay, so I've got a number of people that have expressed an interest to speak on this item, and so I'm going to call your name from the speaker slips that I have. I also have comments that for folks that want to have those read into the record that they don't want to speak, so we'll do that at the end. Let me start off with those that I think are here to speak in person or on the phone. First up is Michelle McCroskey. if you would step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to express your views on this item.
All right, my name is Michelle McCroskey. I live at 3021 North Chestnut Circle. That is a neighborhood northeast quadrant of Gilbert Road and McDowell, so we're a neighbor. I bought our property in 1995 when it was just 2 lanes, Gilbert Road, and 2 lanes with a stop sign on McDowell. I am a 4-H horse leader. I've done that for over 10 years. I'm an advisory board member for the Lehigh Community Improvement Association. I'm the chair of the Lehigh Horse Advisory Committee. And I share all that with you to tell you 3 things. Number 1, I know horses. Number 2, I know horse trails. And number 3, I worked on a number of projects with the city for our neighborhood. So I am all about development in our community, but I am only up for developments that build and support our community. The Sun Circle Trail that runs underneath Gilbert Road and McDowell, I worked on that project on with the city. The Gilbert Road project, when McDowell told us that we didn't need a horse trail, nobody was gonna ride up there anyway, I worked on that project, and I worked on the 202 freeway when ADOT told us that we didn't deserve any noise mitigation. It really wasn't that bad after all. And in both of those incidences, the city of Mesa rescued us. They made them put on a horse trail because they recognized our community. And the same thing with noise mitigation on the 202 freeway. So last October, we gave you 156 signatures from people that were opposed to this project. And since that time, yes, I was one of the ones that the attorneys met with, and even the person hired by the community. So I won't reiterate some of the other concerns, but I will nail down the one that is the most concerning. And if it's possible for you to put up that roundabout where we showed you that picture, I fortunately just got that Monday night at 10 o'clock at night, had not had a chance to look at that before. But in that trail design of the roundabout, it's extremely concerning. If those of you weren't here in October, that interchange that we're talking about was the most complicated interchange with the 202 freeway. That's why you have one entrance and exit on the west side of Gilbert Road and the other one on the north side of McDowell. That's why. And so to introduce, and it's actually the roundabout I wanted you to show. It's in his presentation, so I can have a few more minutes while she calls that up. If you look at that new roundabout design, I can appreciate that it's a Wickenburg roundabout. I get that. But that's not the only problem with that design. They're taking away the light on that, and that's not the one either. What's the next one? Keep going.
Michelle, you're at 3 minutes, so I need you to wrap up here
Okay,
pretty
well,
quick.
so my big thing with that is it's unsafe. It just is. I know that ADOT said that if you were gonna put 400 cars on this property, that this would be the only way that you could accommodate it, and that's true. The idea that you could never use Gilbert Road, well, that's true if you exceed the density that property was designed for. When they bought it for R43 with no promise that you would ever change that zoning.
Okay.
This
I
project.
need to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, so this project hurts our community. It doesn't help and support it, and it creates severe traffic problems and safety issues with that roundabout, and I have to ask that you decline it.
Oh, thank you for your comments. Okay, next I have Robin Finn. If you'd state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robin Finn. I live at 3035 North Gilbert Road in Mesa. I was under the impression that when this zoning back in October was recommended for keeping the 1 acre per house, that it was done deal. And here we are addressing the same problem, no reduction in housing, nothing else. I didn't even think about the roundabout, no lighting available for it. You know, our daughters and sons ride horses. They cross these roads to get to the trail because there's no trail dedicated to cross the freeway to these trails from our neighborhood. I know that Tom Stensick brought up some of the problems that existed with the roundabout and stuff, and unfortunately he's passed away, so he can't defend, but you can go back to the records and look what he talked about. I'm totally opposed to this. I believe that there is a market for single-family homes, for horse properties in that area, and I believe that ADOT can be forced to allow them to get in and off of on Gilbert Road as they are now, because that's a lighted intersection to get people in and out. I understand that, you know, when you're going to put 229 units there, that you're going to have close to 1,000 people that could be potential drivers. And now they brought up the part of having 2 and 3 families living in these places. So that would increase the number of people even more. And I could understand why ADOT would say, no, you can't use our intersection here. But there's quite a problem with the reservation, with the different districts that have the lighting responsibilities there at McDowell and Gilbert. I mean, when something happens and you call in to report it, I get transferred to this operator, to that operator, to that operator, because they don't know who has jurisdiction on what there. But anyways, I'm totally opposed to this. I would wish that you would keep the original determination back in October, that it's R43, 1 house per acre, and keep it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, the next slip I have is, I believe it's Wendy Finn. Is that right? Yeah. Wendy, if you'd state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
All right, my name's Wendy Finn, 3035 North Gilbert Road. I'm so opposed to these apartments, you can't believe it. Anyway, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my mom, their families, they all helped settle Lehigh. If you look up the name Johnson, Crisbin, Hawes, Jones, you'll find them all there. My mom just passed away in February. She is 99. She lived and died born and died in Lehigh. I can't even read I've got tremors. Robin and I have lived in our house for 45 years. It's a single residence, an excellent place to raise our family. I could see crime just skyrocketing once, maybe not the first few years with if it passes with the apartments, but later on, as time goes on, you're going to get less, what do I want to say? Desirable people in there. Your crime is going to go up. All kinds of crimes are going to go up. He says, well, it's not developed. It needs to be developed. Why does it need to be developed? We can turn that into a dog park or a children's park or a horse park. There's just so many things we can do with it other than apartments. Anyway, I'm so opposed to this. I hope you can see to it that this does not go through for the apartments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Jamie Pierce. If you'd state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, my name is Jamie Pierce. I live at 2306 East North Street. I live just to the south of the project across the canals. I spoke in October last year that I was opposed to it for a variety of reasons, and I basically came today because I wanted to see what they thought that they had changed. I can see that they're gonna do a little bit of modifications to the roundabout, but I still think that many of the people that pull horse trailers in that area are very opposed to that. I think that the intersection to the east Lehigh Road that comes off of McDowell prior to that roundabout is not very far, so is there gonna be a stoplight there still? I mean, how much confusion is that gonna cause for that intersection for that area? I also wanted to talk about I was part of many of the conversations in the very beginning about this project and when it was 4 stories and how we were against the density and all that. And he has a good neighbor letter from 3 people that I was very involved in all of those conversations. And those 3 people basically felt like they're gonna get it anyway, so if we don't go with the 3 stories, then we're gonna get 4. So that's very frustrating because I don't think that those people are really for this project. So it's frustrating. I don't think there's been a lot of determination on what the water usage is gonna be in that area, and also no talk about what happens for that area when it floods, when it rains like it did the other day. So I'm very opposed to this, and I don't think that since October I have not been contacted until a week before this meeting, and I do live within the 500 feet. So I think a lot of people didn't even know that this was going on, and that's very frustrating for a lot of people. And it's pretty hard for people to come up here and speak to you guys and tell you how we really feel. And you're probably going to vote for it at some point. They're going to keep trying. They'll be back in 6 months if you guys vote it down today. So maybe we just need to go before the council. So that's my spiel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Marilyn Crosby. Is Marilyn here or on the phone, perhaps?
I am on the phone.
Hi, Marilyn. If you would state your name and address for the record, you'll then have 3 minutes.
Absolutely. My name is Marilyn Crosby. I'm at 2560 North Horn in Mesa, Arizona 85203, which is in the heart of Lehigh. I would like to tell you that this project is absolutely not equestrian friendly, and it's also 100% not consistent with the Mesa General Plan, which I have read cover to cover a few times. After extensive community input in that general plan, as you're aware, it attests the importance of maintaining the sense of place of surrounding neighborhoods. The surrounding neighborhoods are single-family residences which embrace open spaces, not multi-dwellings. I am opposed to the reclassification from RS-43 zoning, opposed to the modified roundabout, opposed to the traffic increase. RS-43 properties never cease to be in high demand. I should know this because I've been in real estate for over 15 years. The area has been severely encroached on, being taken one piece at a time, never adding additional RS-43 lots when others are taken. This should be seen as an opportunity to fulfill the need for residents and home buyers for more RS-43 instead of forcing more items upon residents that are not conducive to the location or surrounding areas. Neither the roundabout, the project, nor the gross increase in traffic is a good idea. As you've heard from others, roundabouts specifically are not trailer or emergency vehicle friendly. I understand that they've changed the curbing, but that does not change the fact that when I'm pulling a 43.5-foot long trailer, I will merge into both lanes, and there will be a driver who is not familiar with pulling a trailer, and every single time they will try to jet in the gap of my trailer and the second lane, not realizing that my trailer is about to occur exactly where their vehicle is. It's a dangerous situation. It happens all the time. I don't care if they have roundabouts in Wickenburg. I haul through Wickenburg all the time too, and it's not fun. So that's not an excuse, even though Wickenburg has a propensity for equestrian activities. Research also indicates that roundabouts are not safe for cyclists. It increases congestion, and the list goes on about the negativities of roundabouts. This area, as you've heard, was the complex design issue on the 202 freeway. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Michelle McCroskey already mentioned it, so I'll bypass and save your time. The area already services hundreds of trailers being hauled to the Salt River landfill, semi-trucks, sanitation trucks, local residents on day-to-day transit, weekend and holiday mountain goers headed north with trailers, lake goers and boats. You get the point. The issues expressed by the community today are legitimate and they're real, and they're best solved by one thing: maintaining current zoning, embracing the sense of place in the community, which the general plan requires, and not trying to morph it into something that the residents never wanted to live by. Our homes may not be what you choose to live in yourself, but the homes are what we chose to live in. We wanted to live in RS-43 neighborhoods, by RS-43 neighborhoods, and consistent with the lifestyle that a RS-43 neighborhood provides. You will find that there is an outreach of neighbors all over in every direction that are opposed to this project. Not because we hate development, but we believe that they should occur in locations where they are consistent with that they're around. And that is not the consistency of this project whatsoever. I yield my time in respect for others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Kim Clark. Kim, if you'd state your name and address for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Clark, and my address is 3007 North Gilbert Road, Mesa, Arizona. My family's been a resident of the Lehigh community for 30 years. I spoke at the last hearing in October about the historical significance of the Chrisman property to the Lehigh community. I also presented to you community feedback opposing the proposed development. And at the hearing last October, city staff recommended approval of a 3-story, 222-unit apartment complex with 400-plus parking spaces, which the board did not approve. Today, city staff is recommending approval of essentially the same proposal. A 3-story, 222-unit apartment complex with 400-plus parking spaces. The plan has not made significant changes that resolve the concerns voiced by the community, including excessive population density, a transient rental population, potential for increased crime, the 3-story building elevation, adverse effects on property values, and increased traffic. Staff's report also did not mention certain community feedback previously submitted, including a petition opposing the development that had actually 156 signatures, and the results of a survey conducted where 59 of 61 respondents did not approve of the development. The staff report concluded that the proposed development conforms to city standards. This is a generalized standard of conformance that does not address the unique character of the area. By any reasonable measure, this development is not compatible with the character of the area. Furthermore, the buffer zones do not address the fact that the apartments directly connect to the surrounding neighborhoods through planned access points to the paths along the canal and equestrian trails. Before a decision is made that will irreversibly transform this community, please consider that this is a long-established suburban ranch family community characterized by its history, acre-plus lots to enhanced horse and livestock privileges and equestrian trails. The Lehigh Sub-Area Plan on record with City Mesa intentionally outlined objectives to preserve the historic rural character of the area. After the October hearing, I received feedback from several people. They were very proud that the City of Mesa actually listened to their concerns and did not approve the zoning change. Please stay with this decision. The proposed development has not changed substantially, and concerns voiced by the community have not been resolved. Thus, the developer's duplicative request should not warrant approval. One final thought. Before there was ever a City of Mesa, there was Lehigh.
Thank you. Morgan Porter, are you here or on the phone?
Hi. Yes.
Hi, Morgan. If you'd state your name and address for the record, you'll then have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Morgan Porter. I live at 2449 North Mesa Drive, right at the intersection of Mesa Drive and Lehigh Road, just north of it. My family has lived and also founded Lehigh for the past 125 years, and actually farther than that. Rezoning for 200 plus apartment complexes and a restaurant or any type of eatery or social thing like that would be a decision that would result in many detrimental things, including the following. Home values would be reduced due to the general eyesore of an apartment complex. A roundabout creates traffic that would become a practical impossibility for trailers of any kind, and neighborhood traffic would most likely also cause more accidents involving children and horses. Commercial property is known to drive more traffic to a location. They will come from all sides, even if there is only one way in and one way out. Trailers take such a wide turn radius that at roundabouts such as the one on Brown Road, I have personally been in and seen trailers almost take out and crush small cars that think they know what they're doing, but they don't. Also, to think of the small possibility of accidents that currently happen in my neighborhood have a possibility of being multiplied by 400 plus cars, it's heartbreaking to knowing it could result in me, my horses, or my loved ones being killed or severely injured due to people not having knowledge of the area. People move to our 43 communities to get away from apartments due to drugs, gangs, traffic, and other crimes involving those items. Being in real estate, hundreds of people look for our 43 property to have horses or other animals on. If there's a property shortage of something, then it is a horrible and poor decision to rezone it to something that can be put somewhere else. There are plenty of empty lots that are zoned otherwise in Mesa. There are many letters of concern and disapproval, but there's not even half as many in support. Out of concern of safety of animals, children, and overall the people of the community, please do not allow this to proceed. It doesn't apply anything to the Mesa General Plan. I get that they have been trying to discover something and make something of the property, but it does not just mesh with the area. It would be a horrible, I can't even say improvement, disimprovement to the area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, those are all the cards I have for people that I think that wanted to speak. Let me just double check. If I'm wrong, let me know. Am I missing someone?
I didn't fill out a card. I'm new to this, but
If you would like to speak, we'll have you fill out a card afterwards. You can come up now and speak and then fill out a card when you get done. But please state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
And I'll be short of that. My name's Randy Hatch. My address is 2505 East Lehigh Road, house number 11. So I live in a neighborhood. There's 19 homes in our neighborhood. Grew up in Denver, moved here 11 years ago. My wife's originally from this area. And I get the fact that we'd love to have things different or leave things the way they are. Quite frankly, I think this is an eyesore for people coming into the Mesa area off the Beeline. I mean, it's just sitting there. Granted, in the past, it was perhaps a nice horse property. Then it's divided by Gilbert Road. As I drive in or out, to me, it just strikes as an eyesore. And there's a lot of people that grew up in the area that would love to stay in the area, meaning younger people, and apartments kind of fits that mold for them. With the modifications that I've seen, and the houses, much like our neighborhood that looks directly into this area, I would much prefer to see this kind of a change versus we've had homeless people in there, we've seen a lot of trash, we've seen kids on motorcycles running around, and I just see more risk in leaving things the way they are. As stated earlier, that bull is it'll be a tough animal to fit something else in. So I think we might be waiting a long time if we don't approve something like this. And I think they've come a long ways to try to modify it and work with the community. And I'm very supportive of what they're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, let me do a little reading now. Have a card from Connor Crosby, who is opposed to this item. The comment is, I have been a resident of Lehigh for 46 years. Our family attraction to the community is due to the unique atmosphere of the rural ranch lifestyle, agricultural large lots, custom homes, and equestrian lifestyle. All of my friends and neighbors who reside in Lehigh live here for the same, if not similar reasons. I am opposed to rezoning the subject property from RS-43, 1 acre, single family homes, to multiple resident, high density development. The rezoning is not consistent with our community. The city of Mesa, not sure what that says. I plan on preserving, the city of Mesa general plan preserving the natural environment, recreation, and culture of Lehigh. Brent Priest is opposed to this item. He says, as a person who hauls large trailers on a regular basis through the intersection of Gilbert and McDowell Roads, I strongly oppose the rezoning and addition of a roundabout. Roundabouts are not meant for large vehicles, especially when it is a busy intersection. Gilbert is a traffic area for large trucks, semis, and vehicles hauling trailers, and the general public entering and leaving the valley. Apartments will block current residents' views and potentially increase crime in the area. Rezoning will not benefit the surrounding community. Todd Jules, looks like, is opposed to the item, did not wish to speak. I've got some emails now that I'll try to quickly read. This is Tom Stapley. Good afternoon. My name is Tommy Stapley, and I live at 2547 East Minton Street, Mesa 85213, which is next to the proposed homestead project on McDowell and Gilbert Road. This vacant area has become an eyesore with homeless people camping and trash being dumped there. I strongly support the developer's plan for high-quality development and appreciate their willingness to work with neighbors to lower the density and improve the aesthetics. I especially appreciate their efforts to partner with the city to improve the canal trail system that runs by their property. I hope staff, the Planning Commission, and the City Council will support this case when it is heard. Thank you, Tom Stapley. This is Frankie Breinholt. This is Frankie Breinholt, and I live near the proposed homestead development project under design review in the empty basin at Loop 202 and Gilbert Road. My address is 1725 East Lockwood Street. I have lived here for 12 years and grew up just down the street. I drive by this site many times a day. I am also a contractor developer, but have no direct affiliation whatsoever with this project. I would love to see this area developed. It has been a bit of an eyesore and dust bowl for some time. I understand this basin has some significant site challenges, which has made new development difficult. So I support the developer trying to tackle these tough development issues in the creation of this new development plan. I think it will be a benefit for our area, and I hope you will share my support to city staff, the Planning Commission, and the City Council. Thank you, Frankie Breinholt. Susan Jarvie says, thank you for responding to my email. I understand your position. I've submitted an online card to be read aloud, and I will attend the meeting. I don't know if we have a card. I'll go ahead and read her email. I didn't see a card from her, but I'm 85% sure that sign was never posted. I exit the freeway at that point many times a week and look right at the property. Because of my concern over this proposed development, I would have seen the sign. A neighbor told me about the letter they received, and that is the only reason I know anything about the meeting. I do hope the board members reread the minutes from the October meeting. I think more than 120 people were opposed and wrote and made some great comments. That little pocket of land would sure make a nice office, retail, restaurant, and park project with a beautification of the canals like Scottsdale did. There are literally hundreds of new apartment buildings being built today from this proposed development east to Greenfield. It is ridiculous and should be a crime that the freeway was forced to be built around the historic orchards, which are now being torn down for development, where the owners get a greater profit. I can only imagine the burden all that population will add to our schools and traffic. It's too much, not to mention the state's lack of water and the disregard to the rural history of Lehigh. It's all very sad. Thanks for reading to this point. Okay, we have an email now from Marjorie Martin. And it says, as a horse owner in the area, the rezoning is not consistent with the surrounding area. Adding additional density to the housing area creates additional noise and congestion. I am opposed to the rezoning of this area. 3-story buildings will block the view of the homeowners to the south, and roundabouts are difficult to navigate with trailers. The already busy intersection does not need an estimated 400 additional cars traveling this area on a consistent basis. And she's at 1102 East Lehigh Road, Mesa, Arizona 85203. Okay, bear with me. I've got some more reading to do. This is, to whom it may concern, this is A.M. Barrera at 2118 East Minton Street, Mesa, Arizona 85213. When first becoming aware of the proposed project on the subject parcel, my reaction was that it would be extremely dense and have a negative effect on the neighborhoods and traffic in the area. I have read the letters for and against the project and agree with the homeowners who oppose it. The fact that a roundabout would be necessary to move traffic in and out of a single densely populated apartment complex is troubling. I've always thought of roundabouts as a way to manage traffic in areas where more than two streets or on-off ramps to highways intersect, or to improve general existing road traffic. But this is different. A roundabout to accommodate a congested apartment complex? Consider the traffic on McDowell, especially when all those apartment residents are limited to a single ingress-egress driveway. Think about rush hour. The concentrated number of apartments, even with a reduction in number, does not mitigate the fact that the footprint of the project is extremely tight within the border of the plot. The existing residents in the area would be negatively impacted. Many of them have counted on the fact that the subject parcel has been, until now, zoned for single-family residences, and they realize that homes could be built in the future, but never expected the City of Mesa to consider a proposal for such a radical change, a change that will negatively impact residents in terms not only of traffic, but the loss of their unobstructed view, for which they paid a premium. Then there is the general proximity to parking lot lighting and the noise of a busy, dense project below them, not to mention an increased risk of crime to consider. These things affect desirability of the area and, importantly, home values. Having had a meeting with ADOT before we purchased a lot in the area, we wanted to be sure that the proposed 202 would be completed per the published original plan as it was. We didn't want to take a chance that the freeway would be rerouted closer to us before we began to build our home. So we empathize with the homeowners who would be so negatively impacted by an apartment complex, something they never anticipated to change as drastically as this proposal indicates. The resulting traffic management impacts many other residents in the area, not just those who live closest to the apartments. There are better, more acceptable uses for the parcel. There are also more suitable locations to build apartments. With so much local opposition to this project, how can the City of Mesa even consider giving in to the developer and dismissing the concerns of the homeowners in the neighborhoods? Please reconsider your position and do the right thing. Okay, now I've got a group of folks who are opposed but don't want their comments read. Debbie Delp, 161 East Lehigh Road, opposed. Lilian Barrett, 2124 East Oasis Street, opposed. Kenneth Olmsted, 2052 East Minton Street, opposed. Daryl Eckhart, 3019 North Gilbert Road, opposed. Tamara Barrett, 2124 East Oasis Street, opposed. Connie Osborne, 930 East Norwood Street, opposed. Lori Owens, 2745 East Northridge Circle, opposed. And now, the following folks have comments to be read. Ralph Clark, 3007 North Gilbert Road. He is opposed. I oppose because I don't want the nature of our community changed. A high-density development at this site would further erode the culture of our community and compromise its ability to sustain a suburban ranch lifestyle that includes livestock. It will be one more step to erasing the history and culture of our community. This is not in keeping with the existing Lehigh plans that were approved long ago. Outsiders will profit at the cost of our long-established neighborhoods. There are other more appropriate areas to build high-density housing without damaging our historic areas. Susan Lawrence, 2509 East Hermosa Vista Drive, is opposed. I do not support a high-density 3-story apartment complex on this small piece of land with 400-plus parking spaces and changing the existing intersection to accommodate this development. This development was already opposed by the surrounding neighborhoods in October 2021. Becky Eckhart, 3019 North Gilbert Road, opposed. I oppose apartments being built in this area. Homes are supposed to be 1 acre or more. It needs to be kept that way. The apartments will cause more traffic and noise than we are already putting up with since the 202 came into our area. Lehi is known as a community of at least 1 acre per household, and we need to keep it that way. We need to keep at least one part of Mesa to its old school values. Steve McCall, 2050 East Oasis Street, opposed. We live in close proximity to the project and strongly oppose the development. The project does not appear to have considered with forethought the increased traffic in an area that has worked to blend a more family-oriented neighborhood. Because of the distance between the top of the hill and the neighborhoods on the other side, there is considerable biking and walking of the children across the section of road that this development will encroach, creating risk. I don't believe that there were material changes to the plan to help with our concerns. We urge the Commission to reject the plan. Kimberly Van Riper, 505 East Lehi Road, opposed. This type of development was not approved by this board for good reason. This piece of land is one of 2 pieces left defined in the Lehi sub-area as a, quote, fringe area, meant to buffer non-compatible development for Lehi. We appreciate the desire for profit in the game of land acquisition, but Lehi simply must be protected no matter how inconvenient. What is lost in Lehi happens bit by bit, so please, Honorable Board, vote again in favor of preserving the way of life in Lehi. This development cannot be undone if approved, and Lehi absolutely needs the foresight and decision and decisive action of this board. Okay, getting closer to being finished here. Emily Clark, 3007 North Gilbert Road, opposed. Lehi is a suburban ranch area. Extra traffic will be dangerous for horses, and the population density is not consistent with the character of our community. Please don't do this. It will spoil something that has always been special to us. O.B. Dunn, 501 East Linwood Street, opposed. Once again, this group wants to build apartments that are just not compatible with this area. 222 apartments with over 400 parking spots. It would be totally out of place in this area. There is a reason this neighborhood is zoned for single-family residences on 1 acre parcels. This area has been zoned this way for years. It is filled with people who enjoy living in a semi-rural setting where they can enjoy having horses and other animals, where they don't have to worry about the traffic that an additional 400 cars would bring, making it so busy a roundabout becomes necessary. Just say no. Christopher Porter, 2449 North Mesa Drive, opposed. Rezoning this property from RS43 to RM4 PAD would be detrimental to the surrounding communities for many reasons. Adding apartments would increase traffic in the area exponentially. With an additional 400 plus vehicles, the crime and accident rate will skyrocket areas nearby localities where accidents with children and horses are a concern. I can say from experience, roundabouts like they are proposing are not friendly to vehicles larger or longer than a Jeep Wrangler, which many vehicles with trailers frequent the intersection going to the 202 or to the 87. This plan should not be permitted at any cost. Susan Jarvie, 2543 North Acacia, is opposed. I oppose because there is only one ingress-egress point for the potentially 400 plus residents, creating very high traffic for the areas. Roundabout challenges for trailers, increased traffic at both 202 ramps, east and west. 3-story apartment buildings are nowhere within a 5-mile radius, breaking precedent for high-rise building which is not conducive with the surrounding communities. High-density community is not compatible to the surrounding low-density communities. Apartment row is being built from the nursery east to Greenfield Road on 202. Too many apartments, not enough water. Michelle Wells, 343 East Linwood Lane, opposed. The property on the southeast of Gilbert and McDowell is still part of Lehi. We are a community of great historical value. The standard is 1 house per acre. The 202 freeway alignment was moved to preserve this property. The residents in this area of Mesa are concerned about preserving their property values by keeping the zoning in the area as a rural type of property. There are many residents in the area who enjoy riding their horses in this area. It's important to keep this property at a minimum of 1 house per acre. History tells us that any adjustment will be disastrous to the Lehigh culture. Just a couple of more here. Mary Martin Pierce, 1102 East Lehigh Road, opposed. Regretfully, this plan is too similar to the plan that was submitted a short time ago for rezoning the area of McDowell and Gilbert Roads. This is an already congested area where many trailers and large vehicles travel all day long. Roundabouts do not work well with large vehicles. The 2- and 3-story buildings will obstruct the view of the homes in the area as well as and the trail views. Additionally, apartments are inconsistent with the surrounding area. This is not the place for additional congestion. Again, this is too similar to the rezoning request that was denied a short time ago. And I think that's all that I have. So at this time, I think we'll close the public comment session. We'll ask the applicant to come back up, and if you'd like to respond to anything that you heard, you're welcome to do that now.
Yeah, I will. And a couple of things worth pointing out. I certainly respect the history of Lehigh. This, I think, as Kim said, Lehigh was here before the city of Mesa. 3 things have changed, though. The introduction of the 202 freeway has significantly altered, I think, much of Lehigh area, but specifically here, the south side of the 202 freeway. And this property is an island unto itself, separate and apart from the rest of Lehigh. When you ask yourself, where should an apartment locate? I would say, on an arterial street next to a freeway. The best spot for something like this. Why? It's got close and immediate proximity to an on-ramp and off-ramp. Less trips in the community. Secondly, one of the reasons why we have such unattainable housing in Arizona is the lack of supply. Nationwide rents increased 10%. In Arizona, 18.8%. Why? We lack the inventory. If I were to put inventory somewhere in the city of Mesa, I would put it near a freeway and near an arterial street. I would put it on a property that's depressed in a basin where its maximum height of the property is still below the height of the adjacent homes. I heard things like views and privacy. There is no view behind us to the south that is obstructed by this. But lastly, when I heard some things here, I think it's important to point out, when ADOT sold this land, they put a restriction on it. They would only allow 1 home to be built on it to access Gilbert Road, which means if there was any development to occur here, it has to go to McDowell Road. And no matter I put in, I think what I heard, some things like, why don't you put an office or retail or a park or even a subdivision? All those would still require a roundabout. It's not this particular development that triggers the roundabout. It's the development of the property that triggers a roundabout. And these conditions would exist. Roundabouts work. ADOT wouldn't provide a letter attesting to that, but for their proof that they've seen it time and time again. I know that, I think what I heard is there are better, more acceptable uses of the property. If there are better, more acceptable uses of the property, they certainly would have come. A lot of time has passed. I think some of the concerns I heard when I read and I heard some of those addresses, they're miles away from the property. But one thing in common is a common bond regarding equestrian uses. And our efforts to create a mountable rolled curb with an apron goes a long way to address those concerns. But I will tell you that no matter what gets built on this property, a roundabout will occur here. It's within ADOT's jurisdiction, what ADOT requires. What we want to do is just provide an opportunity to build high quality housing, premium units, make meaningful use of the property with a development that can absorb the costs of significant engineering and development costs to make it work. I know it's not perfect, but I think given this weird shape of this property and the topographical conditions that it faces, I don't know if you'll achieve perfection on here, but what you can achieve is something that's meaningful, that has a tremendous economic impact, that does not have the associated things I've heard, like crime and overcrowding schools and creating a traffic problem. There's been no evidence to support that, but clearly evidence that shows that this creates a very insignificant impact on traffic that is lower than the heights of the mountain, the hillside next to it, that it provides housing stock that's sorely needed in this area, that creates rents that are at a premium level, and hopefully brings a better quality of people. When I think about where my daughter can grow up and live in Arizona, she's a sophomore in college, I worry if she'll be able to live near home because the costs have gone up so much. And until supply comes into the marketplace, that worry will always exist. If I could build something here that was significantly less than where we started with, less in height, less in dense, less in traffic, I hope that would be something that the community and the commission could support. I think that's largely why staff has recommended approval. They know this is the best plan they've seen today, and there's been many years and opportunities to bring something before them today, up until this moment. So for the reasons that we presented to you today, the compromise solutions that have been mitigated through the zoning stipulations, through the good neighbor policy, through the changes to the roundabout, through the reduction of the 3-bedroom units, to the reduction in the zoning density that puts a cap, nothing greater can happen down the road. I know it's not perfect, but I think it's a good solution for a really troubled property. And so for that, I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant at this point? Board Member Pitcher, Mr. Baugh, Board Member Pitcher may have a question.
Got a question for you. Where's the equestrian trail in this area? So I know there's one on the north side of the 202 for a while. Does it come across, or I just don't know?
I think that was a comment made by one of the neighbors that Michelle might have discussed her emphasis on trying to create the equestrian trail. These canals already exist. They can be used by horses, joggers, runners, cyclists all together. This view right here might show a little bit more about how, let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to it right here.
Back to a bigger view of the whole area. Okay. So there's a trail that goes under underpass under Gilbert Road, and then there's another underpass under McDowell Road, and that is the trail.
This is the trail that goes along the blue line edge of our property, that goes into the underpass on Gilbert Road and continues under the underpass along McDowell.
So he's pointing at this guy.
So does the development block or impede any of the trails from how they are right now?
No, it does not.
Or it doesn't impede access or the free flow of how they currently are?
No, it does not. What it does, though, is it provides a beautification along the trailhead, so those can still exist. I mean, you can kind of see in the background here the superimposed image of a horse along this trail with the new improvements that would occur.
Can I introduce one thing?
Sure. Daryl, why don't you state your name for the
Board
record?
Member Peterson, the one thing, my name's Daryl Truitt with EPS. The one thing that we were asked to do and that we have done is currently you can't really access from McDowell Road easily down and go underneath that underpass of McDowell Road. We've been asked, and we will provide a public sidewalk access that comes off of McDowell Road as well with our entry road into our project, and then we'll make a connection over to the east to the underpass at McDowell Road. So that's one of the enhancements that will occur as part of the development of the project.
You can kind of see the brown line that shows the public access that he's referring to. The brown kind of squiggly line cutting through the landscaped rendered area there. If I could zoom in, I would, but I don't think I have the ability here on my phone.
And just 1 minute. Did you have anything else?
One other question. I heard about lighting for the parking. How are you going to address that so it doesn't, shine out? I mean, is it directed lighting down to the?
Yeah, so that's addressed in our good neighbor policy in addition to the site plan case. It's zero. There's a photometric study as part of the case that measures lighting, make sure it's at 0-foot candles at any property line. And specific to the parking lot, we can use low-level lighting. It won't be an issue.
You know, the way the process works here, the public comment part of the proceeding's over with, so we don't.
I would like to point out one thing
Well,
that these guys are not mentioning
well,
is the horse trail that goes down Gilbert Road.
Okay, but we're.
And to get access to theirs, they don't even address it. They just ignore it. They don't think
Okay.
it exists. And by putting a roundabout, there'd be no lights to stop the traffic for the horses.
Okay, thank you. So, discussion, board members on this item?
I'll give it a shot. Let's see, where do I back up and start? I think that the developer has done a great job with the design of the project. I never had any issues with it. Before, my only issue was the roundabout. That's where I had concerns. And to back up a little bit further, I grew up in that area. I grew up in the Lehigh area. My family was the original pioneers that came down, settled that area, so I have a huge, my heart's there, right? So I understand what you guys are going through, but I also understand development. It changed the whole landscape of Lehigh when that freeway went in. It changed everything. I retired from the city of Mesa, and I worked with historic preservation, so I knew when it was a Chrisman property, and I knew when the developers bought the property. I've kind of been watching this for a long time and a lot of years. And my only concern was the roundabout. And so at this point, I'm going to support this project because I believe that I kind of reluctantly or cautiously, I guess, support it because of, you know, I travel through there all the time. My parents still live down there, so I still go down that McDowell all the time. So, and sometimes pulling a trailer, sometimes not pulling a trailer. But I think that they've really tried to design that with that rolled curb so that you could get through there. So at this point, that's where I'm standing is, and I know it still has the opportunity to go to city council. So, you know, if you don't like the decision that's made here today, whatever it might be, you always have the opportunity to go and talk to our city council members. But that's where I stand on it, is I'm supporting this right now.
Thank you. Board Member Peterson.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a tough site for a lot of reasons, and that we've talked through, and as our purview as a planning and zoning board, which is largely technical, through the design elements, the revisions that have been made, staff recommendation of support from ADOT and City Mesa on the roundabout, those weigh heavily. The element of, on the land use side of demand for diverse housing products is something that as a community we face and that we all need to be addressed. And I do, as Shelley mentioned with the freeway where it changed everything, and the comment that this parcel is to some degree an island unto itself, that weighs heavily because of how the traffic goes directly to McDowell, directly to the freeway, and so those are all factors that weigh heavily for me on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Peterson. Any other discussion? And I voted, I was one of the 2 votes in favor of this item. Yeah, is that better? Yeah, I was one of the 2 votes in favor of this application back in October, and I'm going to support it again today. I think that, and I grew up in Mesa, just up the road. I grew up just off Gilbert Road, and so I've been around this area my whole life. I agree with the developer, the applicant, that it is a challenging piece of property to do something with. And it is my opinion the developer has listened to the concerns. I understand that the homeowners that are here tonight would rather have a different use completely there, but the developer has listened to concerns about height, about density, about preserving the horse access through there, working with Salt River Project to work on the canal bank there to beautify that, to do a water feature coming off the mesa. working with ADOT on the roundabout to further modify the design to accommodate the concerns. So in my view, given the challenges of the property and an applicant that has been willing to listen and to try to address concerns, that's an important factor in my mind. So I understand that's not the wishes of the folks that are here tonight, but that's my perspective. So if we don't have any, Board Member Ayers, do you have anything, or are you?
I was going to make a motion for you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion on this item at this point.
So I would move to approve item 4A, ZON 21-00129, District 1, within the 2200 and 2400 blocks of East McDowell Road on the south side, located east of North Gilbert Road on the south side of East McDowell Road, rezoned from single residence 43 and single residence 43 with a historic landmark overlay to multiple residence for the planned area development overlay. Site plan review with a special use permit. And this is, staff's recommendation is approval with conditions.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Let's vote on this item. Okay, by your vote of 5 ayes, no noes, and 1 board member absent, we've passed this item. Michelle, do we have anything else for the board to consider tonight?
Mr. Chairman and board members, I would just want the audience to know that this is a recommendation of approval and they still have the opportunity to go to City Council. And Pamela, do we have an idea when this will go to City Council?
It could possibly be introduced on August 22nd with action on August 29th.
Thank you.
So,
ask the sign be put back up so that the neighbors know about this change? There's supposed to be a big white sign and it's not there.
yeah. Let me let the applicant is here. Why don't you get with the applicant and staff on that and make sure that all of you are on the same page. Okay, Michelle, thank you for pointing that out about this going to council. This is a recommendation and the council will consider it. So thank you for being here and providing your input. It is very helpful to us, although I know the result maybe is disappointing tonight. So Michelle, anything else for the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, no other comments or updates.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion to dismiss.
I would move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Let's vote. All right. By a vote of 5 ayes, no noes, with 1 absent, you've dismissed our meeting. Thank you.